Hello, and welcome to ISI Insiders, the flagship podcast of reinforcement learning, where your learning will be reinforced. Do you hear me? Actually, here on ISI Insiders, we get a chance to go inside of ISI, the famed and now 50-year-old Information Sciences Institute, to meet some ISI insiders. Now, these are the folks from across the Institute doing a range of, in my opinion, crazy cool tech and science work, and I aim to better understand their what, their how, and their why. So again, that is what they're doing, how they came to be doing it, and why they're doing it. I mean, with their ability to go anywhere else, why are they here working on this right now? And why might we, as listeners, care? Hi, I'm Adam Russell. I'm the director of the AI division at the University of Southern California's Information Sciences Institute, or ISI, and I'm your podcast host. I'll be serving as your virtual guide as we talk to some of these ISI insiders, all to test my hypothesis that by better understanding this, my guests, their work, by better humanizing these people who are doing all the things we hear about in the media that appears names on publications or posters, well, we might get a better sense of where things could be headed, or at least where these folks think we might be headed, and as well as where they think we should be headed and how we might get there. My guest today is Erik Kline, Erik with a K. So I know he's going to bring it. I love Erik with a K. He is currently a computer scientist and a research lead in the network and cybersecurity division here at ISI. My understanding, Erik, you've been here since 2012. Your research focuses mainly on network security, including, these are terms that we'll unpack a little bit, anomaly detection, line rate traffic analysis, denial of service defense, anonymity systems. Okay. Mainly what you do, as I understand it, is you do novel research and modeling large-scale networks in order to do, and this is near and dear to my heart, scientifically rigorous experimentation and validation of network systems. Erik, welcome to ISI Insiders.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
All right. What did I get wrong to start off with? What did I miss in terms of your very short bio?
Nothing is wrong. I technically started at ISI in 2010 as a graduate student, but I had the fun distinction of being calling a visiting scholar because I was a graduate student at UCLA and not at USC.
Yeah, that sounds like quite the pedigree. Like you were walking around in a robe with slippers and a pipe or something.
I wish it was cooler, but you still get paid like a graduate student.
Okay. Yeah, but you're working your way up the food chain now. Here you are. Let's start with, let's go back in time. And I would love to hear you explain to now you get to choose the age, 12, 14, 15-year-old self. What are you doing at ISI? And why should that 12 or 14 or 15-year-old Erik care?
All right. Well, I have a 7-year-old, so I have explained to my son what I do. And at a high level, I usually just say I'm trying to make computers safer to use, and the internet more broadly safer to use. If I was going up to like a 12-year-old or a 14-year-old, I would be more clear in saying that there's, lots of sort of nefarious people out in the world that want to take your money or your stuff. And computers allow a nice, easy way to extract some of that from you. And so we're trying to figure out how to prevent that from happening. And if that's helping you protect your finances or helping our soldiers protect their communications or, anything in between, that's what I do.
So 7/12-year-old Erik, would that resonate with you and say like, well, yeah, of course. I mean, were you always sort of like you were always looking out for other people and defense was important to you, or like making sure that like you were protecting yourself and others from these sort of like, as you say, scurrilous people out there? Or would you be like, well, how did we end up there?
I think my 12-year-old self would be a little confused. I mean, there was no doubt that I was going to do something with computers. I knew that.
Okay.
I mean, I have the strange luxury of having used we had a teletype terminal in my house to a UCLA mainframe 4 years before I was born, and I am 40 some years old. So I am one of the few people who have been using the internet longer than most everybody else. So there was a likelihood that I was going to be on it. But I wanted to make video games when I was 12. Like that, I know for sure. I was like, I'm going to make games and they're going to be great. And then the journey changed as I got older and realized that at the time there wasn't that much money in gaming. And also it's a lot less enjoyable to necessarily work on things that you like to do. Like I like to watch football, but I don't necessarily want to be a professional football player. Like,
You do not.
no. So similarly, like I like to play video games, but I don't want to make them and then be upset about the process of making video games when I'd rather be using that as a way to, distract myself from everything else in life that is occurring. So,
I hear that. Okay, so then unfair question. In all the time you've been working in the space, what do you think has been the most sort of like counterintuitive research finding you've had, where you sort of had some intuition of where that would go, even though, of course, all research is undetermined in advance. You had some intuition, and what you got instead was like, holy cow, I did not see that coming.
so that's a good question. So let me answer a different question first while I think
Fair.
about that question, which is
Good move, man.
uh,
Good move. Yeah.
so I think there's something that's important in computer security that I sort of mentioned briefly that is something that isn't obvious until someone says it to you, and then you're like, that's clear, like, of course, which is that like humans are really the problem. And it's not, and I don't mean that like we're bad and that computers are better in any way, because I already mentioned that I'm not sure they're going to do the problem better, but it's like you got to make your security useful for people without it being a burden. And a lot of times when we think of computer security, we think of it very much in like, I'm going to technically solve this problem. And there's lots of good technical solutions to problems that don't get used because people work around them, or people are the problem. Ransomware is a human kind of driven problem, not a technical problem per se. So there's a lot of findings with sort of to answer your original question, where you come up with something very clever, and then you're like, why is nobody using this like incredibly powerful capability? And and I think that's the sort of key takeaway is that it's because we've been solving these crazy technical problems, not figuring out how to actually make usable systems.
Okay, let me ask you this. What is the biggest outstanding research question you would like to answer that's on top of your mind? Is it like, how do I get these humans to actually
I mean, in some sense it is. Like, I
yeah.
mean, I have a lot of interest in I really kind of want to have this world where we were living in, like the Star Trek world, where most of the time the captain just sits there and tells the computer to do something, and the computer's like, you're the captain, so like off we go. And there's no like authentication that's occurring because there is authentication, but we just don't see the authentication. And a lot of that's sort of the world I want to live in, where like I walk to a door and the door is already unlocked because it's figured out that it's me that's coming to the door, but also how to do that in like a privacy preserving way so that like because it's kind of scary to think about, okay, the way you really would do that if you're again our glorious federal government, you take a lot of images and you do image processing and you see it's my face, and then maybe you do something else, you do voice matching and you're tracking the way I walk and stuff like that. And that's all great, but now you have this great database of me and everything that makes me me. So
Yeah. So what I'm hearing as I reframe it is this tension between yeah, deeply personalized to the point that like these machines know me, but the tension then is also like, well, then I have to hand all that over essentially either to the machine or the people behind the machine. How do you resolve that? How do you get the usable security? Are you telling me though that you want to live in a future in which we don't all have to have thousands of passwords that we routinely
that is
forget and have to
correct.
reset? You're
That is correct.
you are a visionary,
But
sir.
there's also, well, I'm not the only one, but there's
That's
also a
right.
challenge,
A dreamer.
which is anything that is strictly speaking tied to you becomes a problem because you can't change it. So like people always talk about like, oh, I want to use, thumbprint scanning, right? Okay, well, what happens if someone somehow copies my thumbprint? Well, I can't change my thumbprint. Like I'm not cutting off my thumb and getting a new thumb.
Man,
Like
not easily.
so
Yeah.
there is a challenge there of all these things, which is if there's some way to subvert the system, well, then what's the next step? Because right now you just change your password, right? Like you get a new token or you get some other type of login credential. But if the login credentials are my biometrics aren't going anywhere.
So you said earlier you try to explain, or you do explain to your sons sort of what you do, your kids what you do. What does the rest of your family sort of think about what you do? Do you get like the late night phone calls of like, oh my God, I just hit a link and a text, help me. What do I do?
So luckily, for the same reason that I had a computer before I was born, I have not gotten a lot of like, oh, I got scammed or blah blah
Yeah, nice.
attack thing X. Now my grandparents, we got that a little bit, but that, that was more to be expected. And they got very much more traditional. I mean, again, social engineering is the key. My grandmother got the grandmother scam, as they call it. Luckily, she didn't get scammed, but she was like, "Why is my grandson calling me from prison? That makes no sense. And why would he be in prison?"
Wait,
Like,
did she get the full like the deep fake audio?
well,
Yeah.
no, this was before the deepfake audio. This was just
Oh, gotcha. Yeah,
someone
like so.
impersonating me, but she's still just like, "Why would he need to call me? Why wouldn't he call his own parents?" And like,
Your grandmother's pretty savvy. That's good. Man, you hear about these things and you do wonder like, how is it possible for you to work in this industry and not just give up on the species entirely? Um,
well, I have questions about our species sometimes,
yeah. But then
but
you work with the people who are trying to do the right thing, right?
yep.
And that one at the end of the day, we have to hope the good people outnumber the bad people.
Well, and I think the key for all scams, just to be clear, is if someone says something's urgent, it's never that urgent, and you can always call the other person back. So if it's your grandson calling you saying that they need money right away, say, okay, great, I'll call you back in 5 minutes to give you the money, and I will call you on your phone, right?
I mean,
Like,
how many problems would not be created or solved or would be solved if people just like took a breath?
yeah,
Just
exactly.
yeah, exactly.
Nothing
Yeah.
is that urgent, trust me. Like,
Yeah. Do you have a favorite sort of like go-to movie or book that you think captures some, I don't know, some essence or element of what you do or conveys some like profound truth in this space?
um, well, so there's what is it? The Cryptonomicon, I think is what it's called off the top of my head. My
Hmm.
brain's which is a good book, and people should read it, about sort of math and security and how those things can operate in sort of a high fantasy world or high sci-fi world. I don't know exactly how I would describe it. In terms of TV and movies and TV do a surprisingly, well, actually, surprising is not the word. They don't do a very good job of reflecting cybersecurity, and that's mainly because cybersecurity is kind of boring. And I don't mean that in like I'm not bored with my job. It's just it's not a high action impact thing. It's a lot of most cyber attacks are very slow. You put something, you infect a network, then you spend months slowly crawling the network so that you don't get detected by any detection agent. This is not a particularly entertaining thing to watch. So that's why on TV you see a lot of like people furiously typing on keyboards,
Right, right.
trying to defeat some kind of attack. That's just not really what happens. There's a famous episode of NCIS. I think it's NCIS. It might be like CSI, but I'm pretty sure it's NCIS, where they're like under cyber attack and then two people are operating on the same keyboard. And it's like, do you guys, who knows when to hit enter and when to hit spacebar? Like, keyboards are not designed for two people to use at the same time. Like,
Oh man, I haven't really noticed and now I'll see nothing else but like two people on
yes.
a keyboard. That's right. Yeah. It's not a piano, right? It's not.
Yep, exactly. You got to work in sync.
What are you so what are you most excited about in this space? Like in the next sort of let's say 5 years, because nobody can think farther than that. Like what are you most optimistic about?
I mean, excites is a fun word because when you're a security expert, excitement and fear run hand in hand. Um, so like I'm super curious. I don't even know if excitement's the right word. It's just like where AI is going to take us in terms of computer security. And not, like I said at the beginning, it's not clear to me it's going to be better than we're at now, but it's going to be different. And that's something that we're going to have to understand. And and I do think it's important that we start thinking about how, I mean, we've been thinking a lot of times about how people circumvent systems. Computers are going to try to circumvent systems in a different way, and we will need to think about how that goes. And there's probably a lot of opportunity in figuring that out.
Anybody living or dead, get to have dinner with them and ask them for like, how should I think about stuff or ask them for advice for the modern world? Who would that person be and why?
So it's not clear to me I would ask anybody dead about advice of the modern world because past,
That's fair.
I mean, well, past perspectives are, I mean, people's perspectives are tied to their time period, right? And so like a Roman, like Julius Caesar's perspective on the modern world is probably somewhat useful, but not necessarily super prescient. And even
That's fair.
someone like Einstein, who lived in the, near modern, as we might call it, like he probably didn't, as smart as he was, postulate a world where we have an internet and the power to compute anything in our pockets equivalently, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know. In some sense, the question is how do I sort of move forward to tackle problems, a lot of times I would talk to colleagues. If the question is how to handle sort of the complexity of the world, in a lot of ways, this is like somewhere to talk to a therapist. Uh, and there's nothing wrong with talking to people to try to help figure out how to ground yourself in modern society. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think that people underestimate just in general the utility of just talking to other people and letting them listen and get some perspective.
Yeah.
Um, and I also think that people underestimate the value of listening to other people and just listening. Like, not, you don't have to. I have this problem, which is I try to solve problems. So when my wife is
Yeah.
like venting, I just have to be like, I need to just not say anything. Like, this is
Yeah.
because she doesn't want me to come here and be like, well, you should have said this. Like, that's not productive,
Yeah. This is what I mean by coaches. And I take your point. People to talk to and listen to. I heard recently there's sort of three conversations people tend to have. There's the fix it conversation. There's the I just need to complain conversation. And there's the connecting conversation, right? The thing where we're relating to each other. It is once you see that, it's clear how many times like we mistake those things and how much comes out of these simple misunderstandings. Okay. Question for you.
Yeah.
This is by far and away the hardest question of the podcast that we ask anybody. Now, traditionally, it's a joke about AI that I'm looking for, but I'm not going to hold you to that standard because that just ends badly for the most part. But we're looking for a sort of pseudo wonky joke. Do you have a good wonky joke?
So I do, maybe. I mean, it depends on if you understand computer security, but
Oh, all
um,
right.
so the joke basically goes like this, which is you have a IT professional and he goes to his or she goes to their manager and they go, "Sir, we have a problem." And the manager goes, "We don't have a problem, we have an opportunity." And the IT professional goes, "Well, we have a ransomware opportunity."
I like that. Yeah, especially as I work with people who are constantly referring. They don't. It's not a problem. It's a challenge. It's an opportunity. Yeah, ransomware opportunity. I'd be okay without that opportunity. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Question for you then. How do you stay up on top of all the research? And I'm not
It's
implying
hard.
that you do. Yeah. What are your strategies?
Um, I mean, so I think I use a very similar strategy that most people do, which is, I check the top conferences and look at the top publications and see what people are working on, especially in the areas that I'm particularly interested in. So like network security, um, more into like wireless security now and stuff like that. And then I talk to other people. I mean, and again, that's that like I'll have a meeting with a colleague and they'll be like, "Oh, I saw this cool paper about blah blah blah. We should check that out." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay, cool. I'll go check that out." Because it's impossible to gain all the knowledge.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and
No.
even the knowledge could be contradictory, right? Which is fine. Like I'm not saying like someone publishes a paper that says if you do thing X, you're secure, and then someone else publishes a follow-on paper that says I did thing X and I'm not secure. Like here are the problems.
Mhm.
Both of those things are fine to be true, but now you gotta like absorb that information and you don't want to be stuck in the
Uh,
past.
talk to other people. I think is my takeaway, which I think is actually true. Like, yeah, the premise of collective intelligence is that my own individual brain is actually pretty underwhelming on its own. It's because it has access to, in your case, your brain. I can talk to you. I can learn from you. And this has been a pretty learning podcast for me, Erik. I really appreciate it. We're running out of time, unfortunately. So I just want to thank you again for coming on the podcast. I want to thank you in particular for giving me some takeaways myself. Two that stood out to me. One is this idea of, as you said very well, excitement and fear kind of go hand in hand when you're looking into the future. I think that's spot on. And so, in addition to becoming comfortable with uncertainty, I think we also have to become comfortable with the merging of fear and excitement to some degree. The second thing that I take away from this is talking to other people. We're not going to get through this alone. So let's not try, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're a species that has thrived on collectivism as societies, either if it's your tribe or your nation or whatever. And it's not, we are not a species that is designed to be individual.
I think that's right. All the more reason why I'm very grateful to be at ISI as part of this ISI tribe and to have you in it. So again, Erik, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to talk us through this and give us a really entertaining insight to that. Again, appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right. If you enjoy these short podcasts, please do really what only you can do. or at least we only want you to because you've actually listened to the podcast. Please rate us, grade us, evaluate us, score us, whatever you want to do, but also subscribe, please. Spread the word, tell others about us. Offer up brave questions that you would like me to ask. We will even accept jokes. But of course, mainly, please keep listening and learning. And join us again in the future for another episode of ISI Insiders, where I hope we will keep exploring, keep learning, keep humanizing this tech through understanding the people who are building and deploying it in order to help navigate our way through this weird, weird world. Trying to do what humans can do best when they face these kinds of challenges, working together as if all our lives depend on each other, because they do. So for now, for the future, fight on.